3.4 million people. That's Chicago in the summer of 1934. 3.4 million faces on sidewalks, in streetcars, behind diner counters, leaning out of tenement windows. And somewhere in that ocean of faces is one man. One. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has 20 agents in the city. They have wiretaps, informants, wanted posters on every post office wall from Maine to California. They have the full backing of the United States Department of Justice, and they cannot find him. His name is John Herbert Dillinger. He is 31 years old. He has robbed more than 20 banks across the Midwest. He has escaped from jail twice, once with a wooden gun carved from a washboard and darkened with boot polish. He has changed his own face with a scalpel. And right now, at this very moment, he is sitting on a couch in a second-floor apartment on Halsted Street, listening to the Cubs game on the radio, and nobody on earth can touch him. Nobody except 25 Delta Force operators who know exactly where he is, exactly when he'll move, and exactly how he dies. The question is whether they can get to him first and take him alive. Now here's what you need to understand about John Dillinger. He wasn't a warlord. He didn't command armies. He didn't sit behind fortress walls with 1,000 guards. His protection was something harder to beat than all of that. It was America itself. In 1934, the United States was in the pit of the Great Depression. 14 million people were unemployed. Banks had collapsed by the thousands, taking life savings, farms, homes. The public didn't just tolerate bank robbers, they cheered for them. Dillinger walked into banks with a Thompson submachine gun, vaulted over counters, grinned at the cameras, and the newspapers turned him into a folk hero. Women wrote him love letters in prison. Farmers hid him in their barns. When he escaped from Crown Point Jail in Indiana on March 3, 1934, using nothing but a fake pistol carved from wood, the warden was so humiliated that the governor launched an investigation. But the public laughed. They loved it. That was the first layer of protection. Public sympathy. The second layer was corruption. Chicago in 1934 was rotten from the badge up. The police department had spent the previous decade under the shadow of Al Capone, and the shadow hadn't lifted. Officers took cash from bootleggers, bookies, brothel owners. Detectives in the 33rd District, the very district covering Dillinger's neighborhood, had connections to organized crime that ran so deep you couldn't tell where the badge ended and the racket began. If the wrong cop learned about an operation, Dillinger would know within the hour. The third layer was Dillinger himself. The man was not stupid. After his second escape, he went underground. He paid Dr. Wilhelm Loser and Dr. Harold Cassidy, both criminals themselves, to perform plastic surgery on his face in late May of 1934. They tightened skin, filled in a cleft chin, removed moles. Then Loser poured hydrochloric acid on Dillinger's fingertips to destroy his prints. During the procedure, the ether anesthesia went wrong. Dillinger's tongue fell back into his throat. His heart stopped. For a moment, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, John Dillinger was clinically dead on a kitchen table in a Chicago safe house. They brought him back. He healed. He grew a mustache. He started going by Jimmy Lawrence. And he stepped back onto the streets of Chicago looking like a different man. The FBI had his old face on every wanted poster in the country. It didn't matter. That face was gone. So picture the problem. Your target is one man in a city of millions. He has a new face. He moves through neighborhoods where people protect him, not because they're organized, but because they simply don't care about the law. The local police cannot be trusted. The federal agents hunting him are disorganized, underfunded, and led by a man, Melvin Purvis, who is brilliant but reckless. And Dillinger himself has the survival instincts of a hunted animal. He sleeps light. He moves unpredictably. He carries a Colt .380 in his waistband everywhere he goes. This is not a fortress you can map. This is not a compound you can breach. This is a ghost in a crowd. And that is exactly where 25 operators from the Combat Applications Group, Delta Force, step in. The team arrives in Chicago in the third week of July 1934. They come in civilian clothes, no uniforms, no insignia, no vehicles that would look out of place on Depression-era streets. They carry what they can conceal. Each operator has a SIG P226 with a compact suppressor. Subsonic 9mm rounds, the sound of the shot no louder than a heavy book hitting a table. 4 operators carry suppressed MP7s broken down in leather suitcases. 2 carry tasers. Every man wears a bone conduction earpiece linked to encrypted PRC-152 radios. Invisible, inaudible to anyone standing next to them. In an era when the FBI communicates by telephone and telegraph, these 25 men can talk to each other across the entire city in real time, silently. They also bring 2 RQ-11 Raven drones, small, hand-launched, electric, nearly silent at altitude. In 1934, the concept of aerial surveillance means a biplane circling overhead. The Raven flies at 300 feet and transmits live thermal video to a handheld screen. Nobody in Chicago looks up. Nobody would know what they were seeing if they did. But the real weapon isn't hardware. It's information. These operators have studied every document that will be written about John Dillinger over the next 90 years. They have Melvin Purvis's memoir, published in 1936. They have the FBI's internal case files, declassified decades later. They have Anna Sage's full testimony. They have the autopsy report. They have Polly Hamilton's later interviews. They know that Dillinger is living under the name Jimmy Lawrence. They know he is dating a 26-year-old woman named Polly Hamilton. They know the address, 2420 North Halsted Street, 2nd floor, 4 rooms. They know he spends most afternoons there, often without a weapon within reach, listening to baseball on the radio. They know that on July 22, 1934, he will walk to the Biograph Theater on Lincoln Avenue, 6 blocks away, 800 meters, to watch a Clark Gable movie called Manhattan Melodrama. They know he will be wearing a straw hat and a white shirt. They know he will be flanked by 2 women, Polly Hamilton and Anna Sage, and they know that Melvin Purvis and his agents will be waiting outside the theater, and that 3 bullets will end Dillinger's life on the sidewalk at approximately 10:30 p.m. The FBI killed him because they couldn't capture him. These 25 operators don't intend to make the same mistake. Stay with me. This is where it gets interesting. The team's intelligence officer, call him Voss, spends the first 12 hours in Chicago running pattern-of-life analysis from a rented room on Fullerton Avenue, 6 blocks from Dillinger's location. The drones confirm what the historical record promised. At 2420 North Halsted, 2nd floor, the thermal feed shows 2 heat signatures most of the afternoon. 1 stationary on what appears to be a sofa, 1 moving between rooms. Dillinger and Polly. The front door of the building opens onto Halsted Street, a busy commercial road. Streetcars pass every 4 minutes. There is a back entrance through an alley, narrow, unpaved, shaded by a fire escape. The building has 8 apartments. 6 are occupied. The neighbors are working class, a laundry woman, a streetcar mechanic, a retired tailor. None of them know that Jimmy Lawrence is John Dillinger. The hallway on the 2nd floor is 11 feet long and 4 feet wide. Wooden floorboards, 1 overhead light. The door to Polly's apartment is the 2nd on the left. It has 1 deadbolt, a pin tumbler, standard 1930s hardware. An operator with a rake pick can open it in under 4 seconds. But Voss doesn't want to pick the lock. He wants the door opened from the inside. And this is the crack, the flaw that no one in 1934 could see because the information didn't exist yet. Anna Sage. Her real name was Anna Kumpanash. She was born in Romania. ran brothels in Indiana and Illinois, and was facing a deportation order from the Immigration and Naturalization Service. History records that she approached Melvin Purvis on July 21st, one day before the Biograph Theatre, and offered Dillinger's location in exchange for help with her case. Purvis agreed. Sage wore an orange skirt that night. It looked red under the theatre marquee lights. She became the Lady in Red. But here is what matters. The Delta team knows about Anna Sage weeks before she contacts Purvis. They know her name, her address, her legal situation, her motivation. They approach her on July 14th, a full week early. The pitch is simple. We are federal agents. We know about the deportation. We can make it go away, permanently. All you have to do is let us into the apartment, not the theatre. The apartment. One afternoon visit. You bring us to the door. You knock. Polly opens it. We do the rest. You walk away free. Anna Sage spent her entire life calculating odds. She looks at these men, calm, professional, no badges but radiating authority, and she does the math. It takes her 48 hours. She says yes. July 16th, 1934. Day 1. 600 hours. 96 hours on the clock. The team splits into 4 elements. Alpha, 6 operators, takes the alley behind 2420 North Halsted. They set up in a rented truck, disguised as an ice delivery vehicle. In 1934, ice trucks are everywhere. Nobody looks twice. Bravo, 6 operators, positions on Halsted Street itself. 2 in a diner across the road. 2 on a bench near a newsstand. 2 walking a loop pattern, rotating every 20 minutes. Charlie, 8 operators, stages 3 blocks north in a rented warehouse on Wrightwood Avenue. They are the reaction force. If things go wrong, they move. And Delta, 5 operators, led by Voss, stays in the command post on Fullerton, monitoring drone feeds and encrypted comms. The Raven launches from the warehouse rooftop at 0630. It climbs to 300 feet. From the ground, it is a speck. A bird, maybe, if anyone noticed. Nobody does. The thermal camera locks onto the second-floor apartment. 2 signatures. Dillinger is already awake. Day 1 is observation only. Pattern confirmation. The team watches Dillinger's movements through the thermal feed and through Bravo's eyes on the street. At 11:04, Dillinger walks out the front door. White shirt, straw hat. He turns south on Halsted, enters a drugstore on the corner of Fullerton. Buys a newspaper and a pack of spearmint gum. He is inside for 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Then he walks back. Bravo 2, sitting in the diner, is 9 feet from Dillinger as he passes the window. 9 feet. Close enough to see the scar tissue near his left ear where Dr. Loza's knife did its work. Close enough to smell the newsprint in his hand. Bravo 2 does not react. He sips his coffee. Dillinger walks home. At 14:30, the radio comes on. Cubs game. The thermal shows Dillinger stationary on the sofa for 2 hours and 11 minutes. He does not move. He does not get up. Polly brings him something. A drink, a plate. The silhouettes overlap for a moment. Then she moves to the kitchen. He stays. This is the window. Day 2. 0500 hours. 72 hours left. Voss confirms the plan. Assault happens today at 1500 during the Cubs game, when Dillinger is stationary, relaxed, and historically unarmed. Anna Sage will arrive at the building at 1445. She will walk up to the second floor. She will knock on Polly's door. Polly knows her. She's a friend, a neighbor. The door opens. Anna steps inside. 15 seconds later, Alpha Element enters through the back alley door. 6 men. Suppressed cigs drawn, boots wrapped in cloth to muffle the sound on the wooden stairs. They climb to the second floor in single file. The hallway is 4 feet wide, tight. But Delta operators train in spaces half that size. They stack on the door. Bravo Element locks down the street. 2 operators cover the front entrance. 2 cover the alley exit. 2 hold the perimeter on the cross streets. No one enters the block. Charlie stands by in the warehouse. Engines off, kit on, 3-minute response time. At 14:47, Anna Sage knocks on the apartment door. Through the wall-penetrating audio sensor, a device the size of a coin pressed against the plaster by an alpha operator. The team hears Polly's footsteps, the click of the deadbolt. The door opens. Anna's voice, casual, friendly. She asks about a dress she left last week. Polly laughs. They talk. Inside the apartment, the thermal feed shows Dillinger on the sofa. He hasn't moved. The radio plays. The Cubs are losing. At 14:53, the Alpha Team leader, call him Pike, gives the signal. One word on comms. Execute. The door is already unlocked. Pike pushes it open. The first 2 operators sweep left, toward the living room. The 3rd and 4th go right, clearing the kitchen, the bedroom. The 5th holds the hallway. The 6th covers the stairs. It happens in 4 seconds. Dillinger is on the sofa. He is wearing an undershirt and trousers. His Colt. .380 is on a shelf in the bedroom, 12 feet away through a doorway behind a closed door. He never reaches it. He starts to rise. The first operator is on him. A taser fires, 50,000 volts. Dillinger drops. His body locks. The second operator rolls him face down. Zip ties on the wrists, zip ties on the ankles, a cloth hood over his head. The sound is almost nothing. The click of the taser, the rattle of plastic ties. The thud of a body hitting a cushion. The radio keeps playing. The Cubs are still losing. Polly Hamilton screams. Once. Anna Sage grabs her arm and pulls her into the kitchen. Whispers something. Polly stops. She is shaking. She does not scream again. 4 seconds. The most wanted man in America is face down on his girlfriend's sofa, with his hands bound behind his back. He is alive. He is conscious. Through the hood, he is breathing hard. He says one word. Who? Nobody answers. 40 seconds. That's how long it takes for the first complication. Voss, watching the drone feed, sees it before anyone on the ground. A black Ford sedan, Chicago Police Department, 33rd District, turns onto Halsted from Diversey. It slows, pulls to the curb. 2 officers step out. They are not responding to a call. They are doing what Chicago cops in 1934 do. Walking the beat, checking storefronts, shaking hands with shop owners who pay weekly for the privilege of not being harassed. But they stop in front of 2420 North Halsted. One of them looks up at the second floor. Something caught his eye. Maybe movement in the window. Maybe nothing. Maybe instinct. He says something to his partner. They walk toward the front door. Voss keys his radio. Bravo, 2 uniforms approaching the front entrance. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. The operators on the street freeze. 2 of them are 15 feet from the officers. Close enough to hear the leather of their gun belts creaking. Close enough to see the tarnished badges. The officers push open the front door of the building. They step into the ground floor hallway. 1 flight of stairs separates them from an apartment where 5 armed operators are standing over a hooded, zip-tied prisoner who happens to be the most famous fugitive in the country. And here is the problem. These are not clean cops. The 33rd District in 1934 is a cesspool. At least 3 officers in this precinct are confirmed, in later federal investigations, to have taken money from associates of the Dillinger gang. If these 2 officers walk upstairs and see what's happening, the operation doesn't just fail. It becomes a war. They could draw weapons. They could radio for backup. Within 15 minutes, a dozen more officers could arrive, some corrupt, some not, none of them willing to let 5 unidentified armed men walk out of a building with a prisoner. Voss has to make a call. Pike, upstairs, is already thinking the same thing. He whispers into comms. I can hear them on the stairs. Silence. The floorboards creak. 1 step. 2. Then a voice from below, the officer calling out, Hey, anybody up here? Pike does something that isn't in any manual. He steps out of the apartment, closes the door behind him. He is wearing civilian clothes, slacks, a white shirt, suspenders, no weapon visible. He looks at the two officers climbing the stairs and says, in perfect 1930s American English, the team studied dialect recordings, "Afternoon, officers. Can I help you?" The first officer stops, looks at him. "Who are you?" "Jimmy's cousin, from Indianapolis, visiting for the week." The officer stares. His partner, one step below, has his hand resting on his holster, not gripping, resting. Pike doesn't blink. "Everything okay up here?" the officer asks. "Yes, sir. Just listening to the game. Cubs are getting killed." The officer looks at the closed door. He can hear the radio through it. The Cubs are, in fact, getting killed. He grunts, looks at his partner. Something passes between them. Not suspicion exactly, but not satisfaction either. The officer nods. "Tell Jimmy to keep it down." They turn. They walk back down the stairs. The front door closes. Pike exhales. He keys his radio. Clear. But the clock is running now. If those officers come back, or if they mention the visit to the wrong person at the precinct, Dillinger's associates will know something happened on Halsted Street. Babyface Nelson is somewhere in Chicago. Homer Van Meter is somewhere in Chicago. These are not men who ask questions politely. Voss gives the order. Exfil, now, Route Bravo, move. The extraction is fast and ugly. Alpha carries Dillinger down the back stairs. Two operators supporting his weight, one ahead, one behind, one covering the alley entrance. He is still hooded, still zip-tied. His bare feet drag on the concrete. The ice truck is running. They load him into the back. The doors close. Bravo collapses inward. Operators peeling off the street in pairs, walking different directions, converging on the warehouse 3 blocks north. Charlie provides the vehicle. A second truck, a laundry van this time, pulls out of the warehouse on Wrightwood Avenue and heads south on Sheffield. The ice truck follows 2 minutes later. They take different routes. By 15:20, 27 minutes after the assault, both vehicles are across the Chicago River and moving toward the south side. By 1600, they are outside the city. Dillinger is alive. He is silent under the hood. His wrists are raw from the plastic ties. His breathing has slowed. He has stopped asking who they are. He knows nobody is going to answer. The radio in the apartment at 2420 North Halsted is still on. The Cubs lost 7-3. Polly Hamilton is sitting on the kitchen floor, holding Anna Sage's hand, staring at the empty sofa where 30 minutes ago the most wanted man in America was watching a baseball game. She will not see him again. But here is the thing about capturing John Dillinger alive. And this is what the FBI understood. Maybe better than anyone gives them credit for. Dead, Dillinger was a headline for a week. A body on a slab. A death mask at the morgue. The public mourned him the way they mourn movie stars, briefly, sentimentally, and then they moved on. But alive. Alive, Dillinger is a problem that never ends. A trial means a courtroom. A courtroom means cameras. Cameras mean front-page photos of Dillinger grinning at the jury, winking at the gallery, turning the prosecution into a circus. His lawyer, and he would have the best, paid by public donations, would argue that Dillinger robbed banks that robbed the people first. In Depression-era America, that argument plays. Juries were not sympathetic to banks in 1934. They had watched their neighbors lose everything. If even one juror looked at Dillinger and saw a man who did what they wished they could do, the trial ends in deadlock. And even if convicted, even if sentenced to life, Dillinger in prison is Dillinger planning his next escape. He had done it twice before. Crown Point was supposed to be escape-proof. He walked out with a wooden gun. Every day he sits in a cell, the legend grows. Every day he breathes. He is proof that the system cannot hold its enemies. Melvin Purvis understood this. J. Edgar Hoover understood this better. They didn't want a prisoner. They wanted a corpse. And on July 22, 1934, outside the Biograph Theater, that is exactly what they got. 3 bullets, 1 from the left, 2 from behind. Dillinger fell face first on the sidewalk. Women dipped their handkerchiefs in his blood. The next morning, 10,000 people lined up to view his body at the Cook County morgue. But the legend was finished. A dead outlaw is a story. A living one is a movement. So the question isn't whether 25 Delta operators could take Dillinger off that sofa. They could. The training gap alone is a canyon, modern CQB against a Depression-era bank robber who never faced anything more organized than a small-town sheriff. The technology isn't even a factor. It's overkill. Thermal imaging to find a man sitting on a couch. Encrypted comms to coordinate a team against a single target. Drones over a neighborhood where the most advanced surveillance was a pair of binoculars. The answer is yes. They could capture him. The real question, the one that matters, is what happens after. Because history had a reason for killing John Dillinger. And it wasn't incompetence. It was strategy. A living Dillinger changes America in ways nobody can predict. Does the trial radicalize the public against the banks? Does his escape, and he would try, humiliate the FBI so badly that Hoover never builds the agency into what it becomes? Does Dillinger in a courtroom inspire a generation of copycats who see crime as protest? Or does it go the other way? Does a long public trial finally strip the romance away? Let the jury see the real violence, the guard pistol whipped in South Bend, the officer shot in East Chicago. Does captivity break him the way it breaks most men who've lived free and reckless? Nobody knows. That's the cost of capture. Not the bullets, not the risk, the uncertainty. Purvis and Hoover chose certainty. 3 rounds, sidewalk, done. 25 Delta operators, with all the skill, all the technology, all the knowledge of 90 years of hindsight, could have given America something different. A living Dillinger. A trial. A reckoning. Whether that reckoning would have been justice or chaos, that's not a question operators answer. That's a question for the country that built him. So here's what I want to know. Could they do it? Yes. You've seen the plan, you've seen the crack, Anna Sage, the apartment, the afternoon window. You've seen the execution. You've seen the extraction. It works. But should they? The FBI had 20 agents in Chicago, and they chose to kill him in the street. These 25 operators have every advantage in human history, and they choose to bring him back alive. Which call is right? Was Hoover's calculation that a dead Dillinger serves America better than a living one cold-blooded wisdom or moral cowardice? And if you were standing in that hallway on Halsted Street with zip ties in one hand and a suppressed pistol in the other, and John Dillinger is 3 feet away on a sofa listening to a baseball game, would you make the same choice? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you think the FBI got it right in 1934, if you think 3 bullets on a sidewalk was the only real option, tell me why. Because 90 years later, we're still not sure. Like and subscribe if you want to see more operations like this. Next time, we're sending 30 Marines into a city that makes 1934 Chicago look like a playground. A city of 1 million people, 7 hills, an empire crumbling from the inside. Rome. 410 AD. The Visigoths are coming, and 30 modern soldiers are the only thing standing between civilization and 1,000 years of darkness. That one gets ugly. See you there. One last thing. Polly Hamilton lived until 1969. She never spoke publicly about Dillinger. Anna Sage was deported to Romania in 1936. The FBI broke its promise. She died in 1947, alone, in a country that wasn't hers. And John Dillinger? His body was buried at Crown Hill Cemetery in Indianapolis, under 4 feet of concrete and scrap iron. His family was afraid someone would dig him up. Even dead, they couldn't stop him from being stolen. Some men are easier to kill than to hold.